Welcome everyone. I actually think I need to freeze frame this really quick because my camera doesn't like to autofocus for some reason anymore. So, welcome everyone to our LPL Rumble Stage preview show, but also your catch up on everything that's happened in the LPL so far this summer split. I'm Mazel, and I'm joined by the ever wonderful Kelsey Moser. Welcome, Kelsey. How you doing?
No way, you're Mazel? That's
I am.
crazy.
It's crazy.
The
It's
channel's
wild.
Mazel Casts, and you're Mazel. That's
Yeah, it's a little
insane.
different. We're like cousins or something. That's yeah. I
Ah,
don't know.
interesting. Got it.
You excited to talk about LPL?
Yeah, I love LPL. I love
Oh,
that we got like a 3-day break only, and every other league gets 2 weeks of a break. It's the
I'm
best.
perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. Anyways, as we get to it, I'm gonna. You know what? We're gonna go bright. We're gonna go bright mode. I wasn't gonna turn on my lights, but we're gonna turn on the lights just because it'll actually be not dark. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this going. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the format of LPL as a whole this summer split. We had a big change, so we're going to do that now. And here we go. While we do this, I'm also going to try to add Kelsey's camera to this. So, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Hmm.
I agree. OBS
Hmm.
logistics are super fun.
We're going to try it. We're going to try something.
Production. What's Animal Randomizer?
It is I go to a website and I randomize an animal to find and tell you my first fact that I know about it.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. This is not working, Kelsey.
That's okay. People
Hmm.
don't need to see me. I mean, I just put my makeup on. It's chill. You know.
Why is this not working? We're going to figure it out.
Tech support. Live tech support.
Live tech support? Wild.
I can provide live tech support.
So it'd be a window capture or a display? I guess it'd
Usually
be a
I do
window.
window capture, but if it's
Yeah, but
not
it's not working.
picking anything up, then we can do display capture and just put me on another monitor.
I do not have enough monitors. Only I had a
Bless.
third. I think I got it though. Oh, you're not. Don't want you full screen though.
Nice. You can resize me.
All right, there we go, chat. We got Kelsey. We got Kelsey. All right, welcome the people that have showed up. But here is our LPL format, which looks absolutely wild. But you're right in the middle. If you had a "You Are Here" segment, it's right in the middle in the Rumble stage. But before that, let's talk about how we got here. And Kelsey can give comments as I go through each one of the stages. First stage was separated into 4 groups. They did seedings based on finishes and if you had a stadium. That was like part of the
Yeah.
stipulation. Anyways, you see how it was grouped into. We had some really interesting groups pan out as we see here. JDG, Billy, Top Esports, and NIP from last split, Weibo were like the big top teams for each group. But as we got through it, it was all fearless draft best of 3s, double round robin within your group. So we had 6 games for 3 of the groups. I guess 5 games for 3 of the groups. And then wait, what's this? Math is hard. Anyways, the group stage itself, though, has ended, and I want your general thoughts on what you think the group stage brought to the table for LPL this summer split and the kind of change in the format.
So I've been promising like a deep dive on format analysis on this for a long time, and it's basically gone down several rabbit holes. Um, so I won't do that here, but
Okay.
I think
What are your thoughts, at least
the
on the first part of the group stage?
the main focus is like obviously there was a lot of sensation from most of the group stage. I think of the matches where kind of the result was known before it started. Uh, that was like kind of how it felt for a lot of the group stage. The purpose of the group stage, it should, but the thing is, it should feel that way because you're seeding teams such that basically your parity in the groups themselves is kind of like all over the place, and the goal is to minimize those because you don't want to have too many games where top teams are playing against bottom tier teams. Theoretically, with this format going into the rumble stage, which we'll talk about next, this will be the only time a top team plays against a bottom four team, right?
Mm.
With one of the bottom four teams being the low seed in the group, and that means that they're only playing against a bottom four team twice, when before they would play against a bottom four team four times because they would play against four bottom four teams each
Yeah.
once. So in this case, the idea is that you're reducing the amount of matches that have disparate parity, and confining them to one stage of the tournament. So that can also tell viewers that they don't have to tune in for this if they don't want to watch it, and then it signifies to them like when the hype matches start, which is the rumble stage. But what it also accomplishes is that it allows for the bottom tier teams to still have matches against the top tier teams, which will typically provide higher viewership. And the gimmick here is the champion diversity aspect from the fearless draft, because there's allegedly, and if you look at the Chinese articles on the format, a lot of fans complained that the meta felt extremely stale
Mm.
with the same champions being picked every game. So that was like supposed to add intrigue to this phase of the tournament, despite the fact that there would be a lot of lack of parity in the early phase games. But all of this is basically seeding done to allow that, because like LPL is also in a unique situation where some of the biggest brands that have been most successful in the past, like EDG RNG, are bottom teams. So you actually have a situation where the top teams get some benefit playing against the bottom teams with these existing fan bases, but you also get the trade-off of like the bottom tier teams playing against the top tier teams, which has some of the newer fans. So
Yeah.
you get there's actually a give and take here. Whereas if you did this in like LCS, where the bottom tier team has been immortals for the past however many years,
Mm.
there's basically no gain in that trade-off.
Yeah.
Um, but like that is kind of to say that if you tuned in for the group stage and you were bored, that's almost intentional. Um, but the goal is to make the Rumble stage very exciting, concentrate all the matches, signify to viewers that this is when you watch, and the general sentiment of fans and tournament organizers is this will increase the overall viewership of the LPL by basically truncating it in this way.
While I will say on paper, I agree. In reality, we actually had some banger games in the group
Most of them
stage.
were
And
towards the
there
end.
was a lot of one-sided games, but we had a
Yeah.
lot of very fun games. Even I even say in the first couple weeks as well. We had some really crazy back and forths, but also just like teams not being very good at coming into the split, and then it just turning into a lot of fiestas and a lot of fun. Which I still think is a dub, even if it ended up being a little boring in a lot of the matchups, a lot of 2-0s. But I agree. I think it's all to make sure that this Rumble stage is very fun, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But I want to talk about how that group stage went now that we went
Yep.
over a little bit of the format, because I feel like likely candidates in most regards did make it through. But again, in this little graphic, the green represents going to Group A in the Rumble stage. The orange represents going to Group B. Now, is there any big storylines, anything that stood out to you, Kelsey, from the group stage that you want to talk about here, that you want to highlight on, and then I'll go through the ones that I want to.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit before the show started, but for me, the biggest surprise by far was LGD. Everyone else, I kind of predicted correctly who would be in the group A and who would be in the group B. For the Rumble stage, LGD, I think being here was the most interesting because not only are they not consistently just playing like the AP carry farming junglers, because they do play like Brand, they do play that style, but they also play a lot of stuff like Kindred, which should be, in my opinion, bad in the meta. And they play it in a way that kind of abuses weaknesses from teams. So, for example, like in the BLG series, you had these poke comps face checking the Kindred and all winning. And then this also happened, I believe, in the WE series. So like most recently, so this is a situation where they kind of took advantage of the natural tendencies of some of these teams, even if compositionally, like poke comps do well into Kindred, right?
Mm.
So I thought that that was well done from them. And then of course you get the block from High Chow, which is probably universally the best blind pick made at the moment. So I think that's like they're very exciting. I think Hai Chow is becoming like a good story. Like we've been fans of Hai Chow on my stream for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but almost ironically, because he just goes for these really crazy flank angles that are super deep. And sometimes we get caught out by them, but that's happening less and less, obviously, and we're seeing like legitimate MVP performances from him on champions
Mm-hmm.
like LeBlanc. So LGD is a really exciting team to watch. Um, Sad that WE couldn't figure out their 80s carry situation. That's
Yeah.
been a problem for them all season,
But
but
hey,
they'll
in the next round when we talk about the roster a little
yeah,
bit, we'll get to that maybe.
but they'll still be exciting to watch. I think in the Group B in the Rumble stage, because again, we'll see teams that are much closer to that level, and the expectation is that they will look a lot better when they're playing against like these lower tier teams, and maybe have a
Mm.
chance to qualify for playoffs later. So
I like it. I have a couple shout outs. Obviously, a lot of the top teams looked absolutely ruthless. Unfortunately, a lot of them didn't escape unscathed.
mhm.
But I will say FPX's grit through a lot of the drama that they had behind the scenes, the fact that they make it through, slink through, not of their own volition into the Group A. I honestly think this team can be really exciting to watch if they can get things together in a non-fearless meta. And I think going back to what we saw towards the end that felt like a lot more reminiscent to a spring FPX will be a lot of fun to watch. We'll see if they actually turn that on, but that's a team to watch for me. The other one, obviously, if you weren't a fan before, you've got to be after you've watched some of their games. But Anyone's Legend has been a really cool story to watch so far this split. I think behind the scenes, everybody was super excited when Tabe joined over on the roster, and especially the drafting style that he brings to the table. But I think they've made a lot more work than people would have given them credit for, and I think it's been really, really cool to watch. Even though they did spill a little bit at the very end, it's been a really dominant early part of the split. So I'm wondering what they can do in the next round.
Yeah, I think for anyone's legend, the thing that for me is about anyone's legend season that's the most surprising is their spring performance. Because based on their roster and the players on the team, you would expect that spring roster to perform much better than they did, not even making playoffs. So I think this is more like the trajectory that you would expect from them, and then Tabe having like more of a, I wouldn't even say draft style, because um like definitely the early seas split games that they won draft like pretty well. They had a better understanding of the meta than a lot of other teams, but towards the end, I would say their drafts were not as good. And the team overall performance, like the integration, was still and synergy was still better. So I think that this is more kind of like what I expected from them in spring. So it's
Hmm.
exciting to see that come through because it's not like these were bad players, right? And it's insane to me that the Azir nerf gave them almost like nothing to do, or the Azir ban, I guess, in spring
Yeah,
gave them
yeah.
almost nothing that they could execute. So it's like way more interesting to me that now they are performing kind of to their expectations. So
I will say I'm a little sad that Ultra Prime got locked out
yeah,
of Group A. Weibo making it in will be really interesting to see what happens between those two teams. I think Ultra Prime is gonna look like one of the top teams, even though they're on a 3-loss streak.
yeah, let's
They're
see.
gonna look like one of the top teams.
We'll definitely see on Ultra Prime. I think like the thing about Ultra Prime is very much they had some almost miracle games, but towards the end of the split, they were looking a lot more, and I think they surprised a lot of people with their top lanes Temple and their new support Niket like performed pretty
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
but
yeah.
towards the end they still had a lot of the same flaws.
I think
um,
they can
so
utilize
sad that
Niket's
they're not as
engage.
good.
Be really
I mean, I thought Joy was like a very good player too.
yeah.
And there's a joke about that a little bit, but where it's like Doggo actually just makes rookie supports punch above their weight, you know?
Nice.
because Joy has not looked as good on Rare Adam.
Hmm. I do have a serious question for you in terms of
Yeah.
who is the best jungler right now coming out of the first stage, because I feel like there's two very clear answers, but trying to decide between the two of them is very difficult. But it feels like, at least to me, Kanavi and Tien are having some insanely ridiculous
Mhm.
splits so far. But I would love to hear what your thoughts are.
I think Top Esports shifted halfway through MSI, or I guess when they debuted at MSI, to playing much more around their jungle. In spring, they didn't really have an early game plan, in my opinion. Their early game plan was kind of like, okay, we'll sort of play out their lanes that we think they go. We'll farm like somewhat inefficiently, and then when we get to mid game is when we'll be really efficient with our time and our map movements. And by that, it's like transitioning out of laning phase and into that side, which made them very reliant on bot lane gets ahead or the game is unplayable. And I still think there's a little bit like that, but
Hmm.
um, the factor is that a lot of their lane swaps were, especially at the MSI tournament, were aimed at getting Tian ahead. So you'll have a lot more opportunities now for Tian to farm and Tian to get an early lead. And I don't think he utilizes them as much as Kanavi, and that's partly because JDG has a better understanding of how to play around jungle in these kinds of metas. So for me, I think it's still like I did a breakdown on some of the smart things that Kanavi does on my channel, and I still think he's the better performing jungler at the moment. But it's like Tian's performance, I think, is a little more of like a top esports shift in style, and I think Tian has always been kind of good, but it almost felt like he had a crisis of conscience in spring, and so they shifted to playing around him to kind of boost his
Hmm.
his
I
confidence.
mean,
And
I
this
think
is like
even in
almost pure
spring,
speculation.
yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
even in spring, he was having a hell of a split. It just came to the big
Mhm.
moments that it was faltering. And
Yep,
that's
I
obviously
agree.
track record, right? But God, I feel like Kanavi is on a rampage split. Like, he talked a lot in the offseason about how much it meant to not make it to internationals and not be potent in spring. And I think, like,
Mhm.
a man is taking it super personal, and I like it.
Yeah.
It's been really, really cool. But anyways, that's kind of the storylines coming out of the placement stage, whatever you want to call it. There was some really fun ones, also some heartbreaking ones if we do want to talk about any of those. But I think some very interesting stories. Actually, we didn't talk about maybe more so Group B storylines besides like Ultra Prime in Team WE a little bit. Is there any other
Yeah.
storylines that you really want to see kind of pick up? I know for me it's like TT. Want to see if they can really do anything, and if maybe we can get a little bit of a change from RNG with their roster changes coming into it. But for you,
Yeah,
what
I've
do you
never
think?
seen someone like so happy to win a game as Vital. That was
It feels
crazy.
good, man. It feels
Yeah.
good.
So it's like it's really impossible not to root for TT now, even though
Yeah.
I'm a
It's been
recovering
impossible. Been
I'm a
impossible.
recovering TT fan, so I've basically not rooted for them for a while, but it's cool to see someone like that happy about it, just like that much energy with it. The rest of the stuff is kind of the way that I explained it when I did my original power rankings. Is it felt like in most groups, teams that were bottom tier made enough of a roster change to be third tier, but not make Group A, which happened
Mm.
consistently in all groups but Group B.
Yeah, yeah.
So Edward Gaming went from fourth to third seed. Um, o- Rare Atom went from fourth to third seed, and Ultra Prime went from fourth to third
Mm.
seeds. Well, I guess fifth to fourth seed because they have a larger group. But that's basically how it felt, and that's sort of how it panned out, with the exception
Yeah.
being right the RNG still suck. So
Yeah. I will say Group B excites me because there's a lot of developmental talent in Group B, and I think that
Mhm.
is very exciting in the LPL because we're gonna get to see them all face off against each other in a lot of ways. So if you're looking at some of the newer players on IG, Ultra Prime,
Yep.
OMG, things like that, that'll be a lot of fun to watch. And some of the roster changes, like Team WE bringing in Abel, RNG changing up a lot of their roster pieces, bringing in Iwandi, just to
Yeah,
add some flavor to it. But
yeah, we gotta.
yeah,
I think a lot of people were disappointed in Ming's performance so
yeah,
far this
yeah.
year. So
Man spent too much
and
time making coconut drinks behind the bar in the off season. I'm just saying. I
but
imagine
they're
him with a Koopa shell necklace, like
honestly
straw
the
hat.
point. clarification when Mazel says there's a lot of developmental talent in Group B, he means Group B of the Rumble stage.
Group B of the
It's very
Rumble stage, yes.
confusing because there's Group B here
This
and then
one,
there's
this one, the
yeah,
group
exactly.
Nirvana, that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
But if we do want to talk about that a little bit now, we can go ahead and move forward into the Rumble stage. So, as a little bit of a breakdown, the Rumble stage now is divided into those two groups. Total of 9 teams in Group Ascend, which is Group Alpha, and 8 teams in Group Beta, which is Group Nirvana. First and foremost is single round robin best of threes, no more fearless. It means that we don't have the double round robin, which I'm a big fan of. We'll see what happens though with a lot of those changes, Kelsey.
Yeah, I'm excited. Again, I think so. Contrary to what I think some people have said about the format change, is that it's not designed to m- make us see less of the lower tier teams. It's designed to make it so that there's more parity in all of the matchups in the Rumble stage. So in theory, like we have cut down on, as I said before, the number of games with large parity in seeding, and now we will get mostly close games. That is the theory behind the
Mm,
change. And I think most fans of League say that they like love watching the top teams and they don't care who plays and it's just like really high level League of Legends being executed by one team. But the reality is that most casual fans would probably just prefer to watch a close game.
yeah.
They don't care if the quality is like super
Make it
insane.
crazy, make it fast, make it
Yeah, as long as
kills.
it's like tense and exciting, right? And I think that this format would probably assume that most esports fans have that sentiment and
Mm,
opinion. And again, the argument is that this is supposed to improve viewership, right? This is supposed to make it so matches that you tune in for are exciting,
yeah.
um, that you actually want to watch them. It's not really difficult because there's 17 teams and you don't know how the casters, both English and Chinese, don't know how to make a compelling storyline for top one versus number 17, you know?
Hey, I always
Um,
try my best.
I know you do. And sometimes we get the upsets, right? We had a FPX. We had LGD.
Yeah.
We had TS when I lost a game to who did they lose to?
Was it
It was
IG? Or
I
was
think it was
it
IG. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a last season ditch
Mhm.
effort from IG or something. Yeah,
So
I think it's sorry, go ahead. Continue.
I want to say like that there is still. I'm not to say that those matchups are like completely one sided in LPL. I think LPL almost always has some parity, but I think the idea is that all of the matches, like the frequency of like close series, will increase in the
Yeah.
Rumble stage. So.
So I do want to lay out what teams are fighting for in the Rumble stage. So top
Mhm.
7 in the group Ascend in the A group. They will make it straight to playoffs, which is huge. Bottom 2 though will be sent to the playoff play-ins, which is the next stage of the season, and it's trying to make it into playoffs. Now, after you look at Group A culminating, you look at Group B, which is Group Nirvana. 1 through 4 are going to make it into that playoff play-ins, which is only 4 teams. The last 4 are done until 2025, which is actually insane to me.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot on the line for some of these bottom tier teams so that they don't bow out super early.
It feels early, but also like you have to think your season kind of ends if you're a bottom four team in LPL. Anyway, as soon as you can't make playoffs, and then it's all about going through the motions. Plus, you don't play playoffs at all anyway. So, I actually the date like the season ends is probably not that different, but there is like the extended playoffs play-in format.
I think it is
So
definitely different though, because the old season used to go all the way to into August, and now teams are gonna be done by like July 25th, I believe it is.
yeah,
That
that's
could be
like
like at
gonna be
least 2-3 weeks earlier.
a 2 week difference. To me, that's not astronomical considering how long the season is, but um, I think it's definitely going to be something that people focus on because, like, I guess for me, the feeling is Group B. It's outs the deck is stacked against you already. Like that should be the narrative of Group B. Like it is hard to make playoffs from Group B. Like let's be clear about this. Playoffs proper is like 10 teams. Play in, yes, top 4 are guaranteed to seed in the play in, but then you have to be playing an extra series on top of being the last seeded playoff team. So having a miracle run from a position of being a Group B team is very difficult. So this, like in theory, creates the opportunity for insane underdog stories.
Which is
And
really
if it
cool.
and if they don't pan out, then the team season is just over and you don't have to care about them. So, it works out.
But then you have the positive potential of really,
Mhm.
really cool storylines.
Yeah.
But as we look at those groups now, is there any storylines or anything that you're really excited for? These are single round robins, so we'll only get these matchups once. If you want to go ahead and start with Group Ascend, is there anything you want to look at or talk about?
Yeah. Group Ascend, I think for me is interesting and from the perspective of like, okay, now we finally get to see anyone's legend against a quote unquote top 3 team. Because I
Yeah.
think most people would argue that yes, NIP was seed 4 in spring, but they were not on the same level as like uh, BLG TS, right? And
Mm.
then JDG was like kind of the bridge team there, and NIP actually made a very interesting series against JDG at one point. Like they had to, in case of emergency, break glass on the Zyrocon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's definitely some parity there, but the question is like, how good is anyone's legend compared to, I guess, the juggernauts of the other groups? Is the biggest question because one narrative is that anyone's legend looked good because Weibo and NIP were significantly weaker than the other top teams, right?
Mm.
Um, the other question is like, and of course you have the BLG question, which is they looked. A lot of people said that they looked like shit coming off of their MSI hangover. They had arguably the worst group stage of any of the top teams. Um, is are they sandbagging XD or are they just that bad? And
I think I think they're just BLG. I think at any time they can throw games, at any time they can win games.
I
I think
think
that
they
has
had the
been
same
tradition.
flaws they had in spring as
Mm.
they and MSI that they're showing now. Is their mid game is bad. Um,
Unless they're ahead.
they they have really good They have really good blue side strategy, which involves like invading and snowballing bot lane and then rotating bot lane around the map. But if that doesn't pay off for them, it's bad. And if their mid doesn't get prio, then they can't get the 4-man on bot side that they like to do. So as a result, people have been extra critical of Knight, the split,
Mm.
because he's not getting free mid prio as much. I think the Hoopu ratings have actually been extremely critical of Knight, when I think is a bit unfair. When I think like he didn't get as much credit in spring for. Well, actually, he got MVP, so never mind.
I
But
was gonna say
he
he
has
did get
perma
MVP.
like he has he has perma prio, and it's like super easy to play jungle bots
Mm.
for BLG in spring, but now that he is not getting perma mid prio, everyone's saying he's playing like shit. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the question mark that I have about the way that BLG currently functions. I do think BLG have a lot of interesting strategies to ensure that they get mid prio, but we'll have to see if they come out because they didn't really in the plan stage, and that was probably the biggest argument for them being quote unquote sandbagging is they didn't play around mid as efficiently as they did in MSI finals.
Mm.
So
I think a couple storylines for me. LGD, are they actually going to be good enough to not be last in Group Ascend? But also Weibo, they're going to feel like
yeah, I
it's
was
going to
gonna
be
say
a tooth and nail fight between LGD and Weibo for that last place spot. But we'll see. That's the thing about Weibo. You never know which version of them is going to show up. But I think Top Esports and JDG are my two look at. Just see how dominant they are. If we're going to return to an era of JDG Top Esports going neck and neck, I would love to. I think that'd be really cool, especially with the rosters they have right now. It'd be really, really cool to see a return to come at those two teams being at the top. But that means that Group Ascend is done. Now let's talk about
yeah.
Group Nirvana. Any teams storylines carrying over from first round conversation that we were having that you're really excited about in this one?
I just like watching Edward gaming.
Okay. Is that
I
because of
don't know
clear love
why.
or just the
I
actual
think
players?
they just always like they don't care. They just play the game. They just
JJ is just like
they
hardcore
they just
carrying, and
go
then
for it.
everybody else
Like
is lagging behind and falling
it just
apart.
it doesn't matter. They just go for it. And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what it is, they just go for it. And it's very silly.
I feel like you
And
could
they
say
do a
that with
lot
a
of
lot of the teams in Group B.
stupid things, but I mean a lot of the teams are not fun to watch. Like RNG and WE right now are not super fun to watch.
I think all the
Um,
other ones aren't bad though.
Rare Atom throw like every 5 minutes.
But isn't that fun to watch?
No,
Unless you're an RA fan?
because I still don't think they'll win. Even when they have like this massive gold lead, the game is just
At
boring because
any
they're gonna
moment.
lose.
Any moment. I think this is
I'm
yeah, go ahead.
I'm a little concerned about OMG. I think it's like the last place team is between maybe OMG RNG, which is crazy because that used to be like the 2014 era like style rivalry, right? So underneath EDG was like the OMG RNG one. And then you have before that was the OMG RNG rival in like 2012 when I started watching 2013.
Now they're
RNG was
fighting for
shit,
the
but it is what
bottom.
it is. So it's just very interesting in terms of like nostalgia. IGWE, like all of these legacy brands are basically in Group B, which is
Yep.
so fun.
And they
Like we
also
have
have a lot of new
WE,
players,
IG.
which is really cool.
Yeah. No, I think it's very interesting because it feels like a lot of what happened with teams in the West happened with teams in China, which is
Mm.
that a lot of the teams that had massive investment early on didn't necessarily get the payouts they wanted, and now they're kind of reconsolidating and going for cheaper rosters. But it is very extreme, like seeing
Yeah.
these brands here. I think IG it makes sense because the business strategy of IG has always been, with the exception of when they splurged on Rookie and Cacao, has always been internally promote, and their scouting has been very hit or miss. Right, they had like the
Mm.
Kid and Kitties era success. They had Jackie Love, and then other than that, it's very much been, and then to an extent like the Shy because they picked up the Shy from a WE streaming contract. But but other than that, it's very much the idea of okay, we are promoting internally, but our internal scouting isn't like that high tier, so it's
Mm.
like, do we get lucky or not? And so it makes sense that they're here. Everyone else, it's very much a reality, like come to Jesus moment of the esports winter globally that is occurring. So yeah, I
Mm.
think but it's still very interesting because I love seeing teams kind of invest in that, which is why I'm a bit sad that the EDG experiment was almost completely scrapped. But hey, we see some of those players on IG.
Yeah. I'm really interested in the rare atom experiment here. If we're gonna actually see like any tangible growth over this year in any way. And I think we have a little bit.
Mhm.
But my God, it feels like it's such a rocky boat for Rare Atom. Also, RNG changing majority members, right? Like Juice is going to be stepping in full time. You're bringing Iwandi. You have the streamer. Oh God, why can't I remember his name? Gura, is it Gura 7? Something like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Coming in, which hilarious in its own right, but excited to see. Team WE bringing in Abel, but I think for me it's obviously got to go to Thunder Talk and Ultra Prime. I want to see what they can do, and if they will actually be anywhere high in the group for Group Nirvana. But I
It's
always get
interesting
my hope
because
ups for them, but they never.
I feel like Ultra Prime and Thunder Talk had almost like opposite trajectories, or that Ultra Prime started really strong,
Mm-hmm.
taking advantage of some of the struggles of the teams in their group, and then Thunder Talk looked like terrible until the last two series of their group.
They
Um,
came out the gate really rough, and for a team that was like mostly
yeah,
sticking together or sticking together completely, like oh gosh.
so I think yeah that aspect of it is going to be an interesting thing to watch. I think Yokai, like if you're a fan of High Trial, you're also a fan of yokai. I always talk
Yeah.
about because like I streamed the first LG versus UP series of the year, and that was a banger for sure.
It definitely was.
Um, but you could tell even in the series that like Haichao and Yokai were interesting mids, right, for
Yeah.
like the future of the league.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think Yuka is
um,
huge. I like
so
it.
I
I
think
like his
it's
Yone.
I think it's an interesting storyline, kind of seeing that come about and
Yeah.
see how he does in the Group B competition. So yeah,
I've also really appreciated Feather. I think Chocho still has a place, and I do wonder like who's gonna get the majority starts in group stage, but or in Rumble stage rather. But, yep, that's the kind of breakdown for majority storylines of Rumble stage. Now I do want to also take a little bit of time to look at the schedule ahead. Thank you so much to you for posting this here. It's a little bit iffy on the quality, but as you see here, we're gonna go all the way until the 31st for this stage, at least for the best of threes.
way
Now we kick it off with some bangers. It's also just a little foreshadowing a return to 3 series days, which gonna be a fun one, I'm
hooray,
sure. Hooray!
hooray!
Let's take a look at some of the matchups, though. I know there's been some question marks about some of the scheduling as well. But do you have any thoughts on week 1, week 2? But maybe starting off here.
They did their best to start off with some really exciting matchups, like topical storylines. Like EDG RNG is
Mm-hmm.
definitely the
The
legacy.
legacy. I love it.
And even if the players are the teams are not what they used to be. I think AL, FPX are the two teams that people have the most questions about. I have zero questions about FPX, by the way. I think they're terrible in the meta, but and they got so much hype off of Rumble and the fact that Milky
Mm-hmm.
Way could outplay situations on his specific champion pool, but their drafts are
Mm-hmm.
terrible. Their strategy is terrible. So, um,
Go off, Queen.
but
Let's
that's
go.
what made Milky Way so fun. Is just like the
Exactly.
impossible situations he was able to carry. So, I don't have any questions about FPX, but AL is definitely a team that people have questions about.
Yeah.
So, I think they chose some very good matchups for the first day for opening day. And they managed to keep like it's you do get the sense looking at the schedule that okay, Group B is going to be opening,
Mm-hmm.
so probably for the sake of viewership, and this is traditionally what's happened in LPL, is that they usually have the more hype matchup second.
Yep.
And then you open with the less hype matchups. So that will probably be the consistent format.
It looks like
Uh,
that's the case.
yeah. So, um, yeah. So you'll always get like kind of the opening act, right? Like we're opening for the Beatles here a little
Love
bit,
that.
like
Love that.
yeah. With Group B, and so I think that'll be a good dynamic and
Yeah.
nice momentum for the season.
A little format moving forward, actually. I just want your match to watch of the week for each week. So, week
Sure.
1, what is your match to watch and why? And then
I
I'll give
think.
mine.
Oh, this is a tricky one. I think probably my match to watch is unironically going to be TT versus Rare Atom.
Okay.
The reason why I have TT versus Rare Atom is because I do want to see if Thunder Talk kind of keep their momentum and if Rare Atom can avoid not throwing. So
That'll be fun.
I
I'm going to be
I think
casting that day, so it'll be good.
that's probably the most interesting dynamic for me between the two. I think the other ones I kind of have an image in my head of how they'll play out,
Mm.
but and there's no way you can convince me that NIPLNG is exciting
I
by their
am
return
gonna
to
go ahead
format.
and try because that is my choice. I want to
Okay,
see
well I'm
Rookie
just gonna
versus
stay true to
Scout
that kid.
so bad. Kelsey hates everything that I love, so it's fine.
No,
Um,
but these teams are the most like do nothing teams in
they
the
are,
league. That's
but
the
more so, I
problem.
want to see what the drafts look like. I'm very interested in
Yeah.
what LNG's draft adaptations are going to look like. I feel they've been a lame duck in drafts a lot of the time. I think NIP has the potential to use some really cool drafts. They were trying to a little bit here in the previous stage, but I think here in Rumble stage they'll have a lot more freedom and flexibility in their best of 3 drafts, especially without having the
Mm,
fearless in there. So that's more so why I want to see this matchup. I want to see what growth we get from these two would-be top teams with some very powerful mid laners coming into another stage. So that's why it's my match to watch.
So there's so basically I think the lack of fearless heavily favors NIP
Yeah,
in this matchup
I think so as well.
because they need champions that Rookie can solo carry on, and there aren't that
Bring
many of
back the
them.
Silas meta, baby. Let's go.
Yes.
Anyways, let's see what week 2 has in store. Now we do get those three best of 3 days
Mhm.
at the end of the week. But do you have any thoughts on this week? And then if you want to round out with your match to watch.
Yeah. I think it's they once again are choosing to end on a not interesting game. Let's see. I think like obviously people are gonna highlight TSBLG, but
Mhm.
let's see if I can give you someone that let's see if I can give us someone that might not be immediately obvious. Let's see. I think we can go with
There's so many interesting
yeah,
storylines.
there's a lot of fun ones storyline wise. I think probably the one to watch for me is gonna be oh I think the LGG JDG rematch
Oh.
or the LGG JDG match is interesting. I think that one is gonna be give us like a really good test of
Mm.
how much BLG are struggling or like how strong LGD have actually looked. Especially since JDG are playing much better in the context of the meta. And I would argue LGD's biggest weakness right now is their top laner. I'm sorry, Bertle. You are the biggest bird, but it's just not. It's just so the that's also JDG's biggest struggle. So there's like a lot of parallels
Yeah.
between these teams, right? You can almost argue that LGD to an extent are playing like JDG lights because Yagao I also think has had a weird resurgence
Mm.
this season. So I think to me this is like a very interesting matchup stylistically. And it will tell us a lot about like the TS BLG series that's happening on the same day. So
All right, I like it. I like it. I've been trying to go back and forth a little bit between mine because it's a hard choice, but I'm trying to choose one in Group B here, and I think the Ultra Prime versus TT matchup, not only because it's the two teams I said to watch, in this preview for this, but I do think it will be a pretty pivotal match for that Group B. Because again, you got to remember these are all single round robins, so you do lasting damage if you take wins, and I think for Ultra Prime and T2 are two teams I expect to be trying to contest for those top 4 spots. I think that series is going to be super, super important. They'll be taking it super seriously as well. So that's my match to watch.
all right.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
So we got week 3 now, and this one
Oh, we're really predicting the
this one
future.
is
Okay.
weird because it is 3 series days, but it's not Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which is strange. But do you have any
I
setups
can just
here?
well, we had 3 series days that were Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday last split. Remember, it
Well,
was like
yeah,
four
no,
days
and
a
then
week.
before that, it was every day,
Yeah,
7 days a week. But that's why
yeah,
usually it was always the last 3 days, but or
yeah, but
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then it was Sunday. Didn't have it, but
yeah.
anyways, gotta love
So
LPL formatting. If you want a
yeah,
little bit of time to look over this, I can go ahead and start us off.
yeah.
As
Go ahead.
it's gotta be the one, the only JDG versus BLG, the revenge match of destiny. JDG being put down finally by BLG, and then we get to see them face off here again. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Shun versus Kanavi. Kanavi again has been on an absolute tear, and also it's a big opportunity to see some growth from Knight going up against, of course, JDG Easy Gal. I think that matchup has a lot of history, a lot of fun, but that's why it's my match to watch.
All right, I got one.
What you
Okay,
got? What you got?
it's a banger. The IG EDG one.
Okay. Okay.
Not because I expect it to be close, but because I think it's very funny that EDG just like bought. Oh wait, yeah. So oh no, wait. Am I trolling? I might be trolling actually.
I'm waiting to hear if you're trolling us or not.
I think I am trolling. It's actually no, I'm not trolling. I
Okay.
am correct.
Okay.
I am not stupid.
Okay.
Wait, actually maybe I am.
What? I'm so confused, Kelsey.
I'm confusing myself with there are too many teams in this league, Gazelle.
There are.
'Cause
There's 17 whole teams
yeah, okay,
right
okay.
here.
I'm not stupid. It is okay.
Okay.
I don't know why. For a moment, I doubted myself and started to think it was RNG that actually bought the IG players,
Oh.
but it was not. It was not. I am correct. I knew all along.
Mm.
There was never a doubt.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I think that is a banger because it's like Cryan and Wink, who were
Yep.
arguably two of the better performing players on IG, went over to EDG. So I don't necessarily think it'll be a close matchup. But I do think it will be a very fun one because you also have Vampire, so it's like the
Yep.
straight support. And
So maybe
what
not the
we
focus you want.
learned on my stream this week is that Vampire plays with locked chem, so
Mm-hmm.
not what you want out of your support player,
Especially an
but
engaged support who, likes to play
yeah,
long range engaged champions.
anyway, I don't necessarily think this will be a super close match, but I think the storyline is funny.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that's why
I like it.
I'm pulling this one out.
All
Also, I
right.
like EDG, so it's
All
chill.
right. We got 2 more weeks left now. Week 4, another one with super days. This one is going to be 3 best of 3 days. God, that's going to be a lot. So
Hooray.
let's go ahead and take a look now. What we got going on? Do you have any matchups you
Also
can see off
known
the
as
top of your head?
spring season,
Yes.
4 best of 3 days a week. Yay. Um, oh, there's just so many.
I think I got one if you want some time to think about it.
Oh, I got one. I got one.
All right,
Okay.
what you got?
EDG UP was in spring the matchup to determine the worst team in the league.
It was.
It was at the end. Loser was uncontested the worst team in the league. So they both made like some improvements. They both leveled up a bit. I want to see the rematch. I gotta see
Okay.
the
Okay.
full 3 game banger with the upgrades. You know, we
I
gotta we
like it.
gotta we gotta see it happen.
Well, mine is Fraud Watch 2024. As we're
Whoa,
gonna have FPX versus Weibo as my watch of the week here for week number 4,
2021.
because
Oh
it's
no.
damn Fraud Watch. Which one of them is gonna be the worst team, or at this point, are they gonna be any good or not? Where is this record gonna hold, and is it gonna be a decider on where they place in the group? I think will be really interesting. But not only that, it's kind of the player stories that I find really interesting. Obviously, with Weibo changing out their top side of the map. I didn't feel like was the issue really, and I think anyone's legend players are going to be very happy to see some of their downfalls part of this split.
There
But
you
I think
go.
FPX trying to bounce back from a very rocky early season with all the drama and things. I think it'll be really fun to watch against Weibo. So that's my go-to.
All right.
Now, last one. We only got 3 matchups, so it makes it a lot easier. Do you have a matchup of week 5 to watch?
I just wanted to say before we move on that FPX never pretended to be anything other than a Milky Way solo carry team.
They
So
did not.
you
Just their
could
placements held them in
call
higher
them
regard.
fraud. It's a bit of a stretch, but we'll go with it. All right.
Fraud watch.
RNG RNG versus TT. So this is the last week, okay?
Yeah, this is week 5.
Wow, what a fast season. Let's go. Um, and there's a lot of good, in theory, good matchups. They could be all terrible by the
They
time we
could be
actually
all
get.
terrible or they could be all bangers.
Yeah, by the time we actually get here. So
I think there's a couple obvious ones.
Yeah, I'm trying to go with a non-obvious one, but the non-obvious ones are kind of bad.
But you got, I mean, if it's a match to watch, it's a match to watch, right? So if it's a good match, it's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
match, especially if it's a single round robin.
I guess we could split the difference. JDGTS.
All right, all right.
I think that one is very fun because in playoffs in spring, TS like demonstrably had JDG's number, and I think this meta is currently better for JDG, so it could be very interesting to see. And also, arguably, 369 is getting a lot more criticism
Yeah.
for his individual laning. So the sometimes gaping hole that is JDG's top lane is less of an issue, especially if I think, given the trajectory of Sheer at the moment, that he could be a much stronger player by the time this
Yeah.
matchup happens.
And they're starting him
Um,
first and foremost in the Rumble stage, which is really interesting.
yeah, so I think that one will be really fun, and I hope it plays out well. And
Yeah.
Cream and Sheer like are kind of the players who need to level up to make this match exciting, and I
Mm-hmm.
hope that they both have the time and the resources to make it happen. So yeah.
I hope so as well. Mine is going to be BLG versus AL. Not only is it Tabe versus BLG, but it's also a lot of fun in the jungle matchup. I think the mid lane matchup has a lot to offer as well, and it's going to be a really big like kind of chess match in draft. It depends how the standings are looking at this point, but I think that this match could have a lot in store for the standings of potential as well.
By chess match and draft, you mean BLG are terrible at drafting.
Exactly. Tabe running
Yeah,
circles around them in draft, you know.
there you go. There you go. That's how it works.
But yeah, that's the schedules we have for everything. That was the rundown of all the groups. We went through the Rumble stage groups, we went through the placement groups, and this wonderful wacky format that we have. Kelsey, do you
Yeah.
have anything else to say before we round out the stream? Do you have anything else you want to say about the LPL
Uh,
and entering into Rumble stage?
we are still Ultra Prime believers.
Okay.
Um, yeah. At this point, I've been teasing a format analysis article that I will eventually still write, but it is turning into a saga. So expect that hopefully sooner, because I think
Okay.
I at least have all the things and a good outline. And then I think next the other element is like if you want to hang out and watch my co-streams when Mizelle isn't casting, or whatever.
Or when I am
um
casting, whichever one.
the I will be co-streaming LPL Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays and Sundays. I will also be co-streaming this Friday because it's the first day of the Rumble stage.
Nice.
So yeah, good
Heck
times.
yeah. Well, thanks for joining me for all the walkthrough and everything. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. It was great
Everybody,
hanging out.
thank you all so much. It was a pleasure to get to talk about LPL stuff. I'm going to cut this video up. I'm going to ship it off in little pieces, but I'm also going to upload it onto YouTube. And then I also have a document coming out tomorrow before the stage starts, detailing any of the narratives and stuff for teams. We will see you for LPL Rumble Stage start in a couple days' time. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.